Welcome back to Below the Belt, or welcome if it's your first time. I'm making this video to share my personal experience with erectile dysfunction, and in particular what I have tried over the years, how those things worked out, and where I'm at now. So ED, or erectile dysfunction, is way more common than people think, but it's still really hard to talk about, unsurprisingly. And this is despite the fact that women's sexual issues are often talked about more openly and without such a taboo as with their male counterparts. Anyway, and that's quite right that it should be like that. I'm not criticising that at all. I just would like to see the same for the male experience. So I've been through a long process of trial and error, and I'd like to offer an honest perspective for anybody else going through the same thing. Like most people, I started with the pills. The first ever time I experienced erectile dysfunction, I think it was just performance and anxiety because I was 30 and it was with a new girlfriend. And so on the second occasion, I took 10 milligrams of Cialis, which is the lower dose. And I didn't need it again for years after. I just needed a psychological boost, a boost in morale, and 10 milligrams worked for a long time. Then as I developed real physical organic erectile dysfunction, I found that 10 milligram worked great at first, but soon enough, within a year or two, I needed to bump that up to 20 milligrams, and now I would need 30 milligrams just to get a semi-erection. They don't prescribe Cialis in 30 milligrams, so these have been bought privately online, and I wouldn't recommend taking any higher, to be honest. No doctor would prescribe that. Sometimes I will take even now 30 milligrams of Cialis before going to bed, just to get those nocturnal erections, just to get that oxygenated blood into the penis, because that is what will preserve penile health and prevent atrophy. Atrophy is where the muscles of the penis get weaker, or the tissues of the penis, to be precise, get weaker and weaker due to not being used. If you don't use it, you lose it. And that is where the VED, or the vacuum pump, comes into play as well, which I'll get into a bit later. So these pills that I've taken have lost effectiveness over time. I've taken Cialis and Viagra and Levitra, and there are another. I've taken them all the PDE5 inhibitors. I've tried them all, and they have all lost effectiveness over time. Viagra, I didn't like it as much as Cialis. I preferred Cialis because Cialis is the weekend pill, they used to call it, because it will last 36 hours. When I first took it, it actually lasted 48 hours. And this is especially useful if you're a single man and you can't predict exactly if you're going to have sex or not, or if a new date is going to change your mind at the last minute or make you wait a bit longer. It gives you that freedom, it gives you that flexibility. Another thing that I liked about Cialis is the side effects. I didn't notice any, to be honest. So they're unnoticeable compared to Viagra, which gave me a headache and a stuffy nose and some vision impairment. But I've tried Viagra anyway. Started with 50 milligram. That worked amazingly well, apart from the side effects. Both of them, Cialis and Viagra, they both worked very well for sex. But the side effects of Viagra were unpleasant. If I took a Viagra now, I might take 200 milligrams, and that might give me some nighttime erections. or nighttime semi-erections, but no satisfying results. 100 milligrams is the maximum that you would get prescribed on the NHS. I wouldn't really recommend going above that, and no GP would ever prescribe that. These larger doses I've taken on my own accord, and as the NHS are not prescribing me these medications anymore, I've bought them myself online, which I also wouldn't recommend. That's the same as my TRT. I don't have the NHS TRT. I manage it myself. I buy the testosterone and I manage it myself, which I wouldn't recommend, but it's because I don't have much faith in the NHS protocol, to be honest. So once the pills stopped working, that became very disheartening. I was constantly upping the dose just to maintain diminishing returns. Feels like very much like an uphill battle, chasing something that used to work but keeps slipping further and further away. Lifestyle changes. I've given the lifestyle changes a proper go. I know that I said that I've been a drug addict in the past, but this hasn't been all my life. Indeed, I have also gone through periods of total abstinence from alcohol and especially hard drugs. I'm abstinent now from alcohol and from hard drugs, and I would recommend that to anybody. Stay away from things like heroin, crack, and even cocaine and even alcohol. These things will not help your penile health. Cannabis and psychedelics is another matter. I look upon them rather favourably, if I'm honest, but at the moment I'm just going through a period of complete and total abstinence. And in the past, with my drug addictions, they've been more like benders. I was never a consistent drug addict. I would never stay on heroin or crack more than 2 or 3 months before I would panic and then decide to suddenly detox and get off them, and then probably not touch them again for a number of years. I've just had some strange periods in my life where things got too much for me and I went on a bender, but never for a particularly long time. Diets. I've been on the vegan diet. I've been on the paleo diet. I've been on a real health food, whole food diets, Mediterranean diet. I lived in Italy. Good for energy and general well-being, but none of these diets fixed my ED. When I was on these diets, though, that was at the time when the pills were still working. I don't know if that's because if that has anything to do with the diet, or the fact that I've just got older now and the underlying condition has progressed. So, long periods of sobriety, great to do mentally and physically, but no major change in sexual function. Okay, moving on now to the penis pump that I mentioned earlier, the vacuum pump. I've also used a pump, but not for sex. I've used it for rehabilitation purposes and to preserve health in the penis. In fact, the urologist will tell you to do this leading up to a penile implant operation so that you can maintain as much tissue health as possible and therefore get the best result from your operation, preserving more length and girth after the operation. So it is recommended either way, even if like me you're not using the pump to then put on a ring and have sex with it. As a single man, this is just another one of those things that I don't want to have to navigate. The pills were easy to navigate, nobody even needed to know. So I've never used the pump during intimacy. It feels clunky and unnatural and not a conversation I want to have. So I've used it purely to prevent atrophy and maintain oxygenated blood flow. It's still a part of my routine, and I try to use it for about 20 minutes most days. It's not a fix, but it's a useful maintenance tool. It's important that you don't leave your penis unused. If you don't use it, you lose it. It's important if you don't want to lose size through what they call atrophy. Now, moving on to the injections, Cavaject. Cavaject is the brand name of a drug called alprostadil, which is used in the UK. In America, they tend to use more Trimix. Alprostadil is one of the ingredients of Trimix. Gave me strong results at a very high cost. It initially worked too well. It would give me an erection that lasted 2 hours and quite achy. But unfortunately, I didn't see that as a warning sign. I even thought that it might be a good thing. Again, like the penis pump, to avoid atrophy and to oxygenate the penis. I thought that I was well within the safety zone because a priapism is an erection that lasts over 4 hours. That's when they tell you to call 999. It's painful and stressful to use. Again, it's embarrassing because it's something that you have to navigate. Since I've had the injections, I've had one night stand, and I felt as though I had to tell the person, look, if you're going to change your mind, it's better that you change it now, because I'm going to have to take this injection and I'm going to be stuck with a boner for about 2 hours. So luckily she was okay with that, and she even told me, you're not the first man that I've slept with that has been through this, is going through this experience. So the injections ultimately cause Peyronie's disease, which is a bend in the penis. They gave me Peyronie's disease. So now I have a penis shaped like a banana, and this is all the more reason for me to be expedited for the penile implant, which is the definitive solution for my problem. There are many reasons why I could have this erectile dysfunction problem, but because there's so many reasons, it's multifactorial. It could be hard to find out what the original cause was, and even if they did, through a Doppler ultrasound, which is the gold standard, there's a low likelihood that they could reverse whatever was the original cause. It's probably too late for that now, and so the last resort is the penile implant. So the injections, for me anyway, ended up doing more harm than good. I'd probably feel differently about them if they didn't cause me pain and they didn't cause me to have a inconvenient erection that lasting 2 hours. And if I were married, I'd probably feel a lot differently about them. But so that's just been my experience. So the physical trauma that these injections have caused me has been worse than the erectile dysfunction itself. So what I haven't tried and why, a couple of things I decided not to bother with. Topical creams didn't seem credible. Not convinced that they would absorb enough to work if the pills are not working, and the injections are causing me the problems that they have done. Urethral pellets, Muse, M-U-S-E. These are pellets that you insert into the urethra. Didn't seem worth the discomfort. And again, if the pills are not working and the injection has caused this issue, and even now that I have this issue, I've got the Peyronie's disease. I don't know why they call it a disease. It should be a condition, maybe. But it just doesn't seem that... I just doubt that they'd work better than injections. And the injections have already caused major issues. So it just still... everything seems to be pointing me in the direction of the once and for all definitive solution of the penile implant. And that's not something that I'm looking forward to either. I'm scared of the pain after the operation, also because I am on Subutex, which is buprenorphine, which they've given me because of my drug addictions to opiates. These are partial opiate agonists. They attach themselves to the opiate receptors, but they also stop me from using any other opiates. They act as blockers. So that might be an issue after the operation, because I would imagine they'll give me fentanyl for the first couple of days. So that's going to have to be negotiated. I'm going to have to come off the buprenorphine, that's the Subutex, before the operation, or at least cut right down so that they can give me fentanyl. I imagine they'll give me before and after the operation, I should imagine. I'm either going to have to come off them completely or lower the dose. But at least I'm not addicted to heroin and crack anymore. So that's something that I'm going to have to talk to my urologist tomorrow about. So where I'm at now, after everything: pills no longer effective, lifestyle changes not enough, injections damaging, pump good for maintenance and avoiding atrophy. I feel as though I haven't undergone any penile shrinkage, but it's not a solution to the problem. So the only option that feels truly reliable now is a penile implant. And I must stress, it has a very high, despite the negatives that I've just spoken about, it has a very high success rate and satisfaction rate. I do wonder about how I'm going to negotiate that as a single man. Am I going to have to tell my partners? Am I going to be able to pump it up discreetly without them knowing? How would I do that? Would I do that during foreplay? Eventually, I'm going to have that conversation with anybody who is going to become a potential long-term partner. But it's predictable. It'll give me spontaneity back, in the sense that I can have sex when I want it and for as long as I want it, without having to worry ever about, am I going to be able to get it up? So no more planning, no more guesswork, just something that works and lets you get on with your life. So that's been my experience. None of this is advice. It's just an honest account of what I've tried and what worked and for how long, and what didn't work and why. So if you're dealing with something similar, feel free to share your experience or ask questions in the comments. And thanks for watching, and I'll update you soon after my urology appointment tomorrow. Thank you, and until next time, from below the belt.